This happened about 3 years ago, back in November of 2021. I was 24 at the time, working as a night security guard at a warehouse distribution center just outside of Cincinnati. The job paid well for what it was, basically walking the perimeter every 2 hours and watching monitors the rest of the time. Most nights, the biggest excitement was chasing off teenagers trying to skateboard in the loading docks. That particular night started like any other. I arrived at 11 p.m. for my shift, relieving the evening guard. He mentioned seeing a van parked across the street earlier, but it had left around 9. Nothing unusual. People often parked there to make phone calls or eat dinner. I settled into the security office, a small room with 12 monitors showing feeds from cameras around the facility. Around 1 a.m., I started my first perimeter walk. The warehouse covered about 8 acres, with the main building surrounded by parking lots and a chain-link fence. November in Ohio meant it was cold, maybe 35 degrees, and I could see my breath forming clouds in the security lights. I followed my usual route, out the main entrance, left along the front of the building, around to the loading docks and back, then along the rear fence line before circling back. As I rounded the corner to the loading docks, motion sensor lights clicked on ahead of me, illuminating each section in sequence. Normal. But when I reached the third dock, I noticed something that made me pause. Fresh tire tracks and a patch of mud near the fence. They weren't there during my previous shift 2 nights ago, and the evening guard hadn't mentioned any deliveries. I radioed it in, more out of protocol than concern. Probably from a delivery truck turning around, I told myself. But something felt off. The tracks led toward the fence, not away from it, and they were too narrow for a semi. I continued my walk, but now I was paying closer attention. When I reached the back corner of the property, furthest from the main building, I heard it, a metallic rattling. Soft, rhythmic, like someone testing the fence. I clicked off my flashlight immediately and stood still, letting my eyes adjust. The security lights here had been out for weeks. Company kept saying they'd fix them. In the darkness, I could barely make out the fence line about 20 feet away. The rattling had stopped. Then I saw him. Or at least, I saw movement. A dark figure on the other side of the fence, maybe 30 feet to my left. He wasn't moving, just standing there, watching. My hand went to my radio, but I hesitated. What would I even say? Someone standing near the fence? But every instinct screamed that something was wrong. This person had been waiting in the darkness, in freezing weather, at 1 a.m. I took a step backward, trying to move quietly. A twig snapped under my foot, loud in the silence. The figure's head snapped toward me. Then he started moving along the fence, matching my direction. I keyed my radio. "This is Tom. I've got someone at the rear fence, section 7, moving to investigate." "Copy that," came the response from my supervisor, monitoring from home. "Want me to call police?" Before I could answer, the figure spoke. "Tom." Just my name. Clear, calm, like we were having a normal conversation. But he'd heard my radio. He knew my name now. I ran. Not away from him. That would mean turning my back, but toward the building, keeping him in my peripheral vision. He started running too, parallel to me along the fence. But he was faster. By the time I reached the loading dock area, he was ahead of me, standing at the spot where those tire tracks led to the fence. That's when I saw the cut. A 3-foot vertical slice in the chain link, nearly invisible unless you were looking for it. He could come through anytime he wanted. "Police are on the way," I lied loudly, hoping he'd believe it. He laughed. Not maniacal or crazy, just a normal laugh, which was somehow worse. "No, they're not, Tom. Your supervisor hasn't called anyone yet. I've been listening." My blood went cold. He had a radio. He'd been monitoring our security frequency. I sprinted for the main building, yanked open the door, and slammed it behind me. My hands shook as I engaged the deadbolt. Through the reinforced window, I could see him walking calmly through the cut in the fence, taking his time. I ran to the security office and locked that door too. Called 911 myself. "There's an intruder at Westside Distribution Center. He's inside the fence. He has our radio frequency. Please hurry." While on the phone, I watched the monitors. He walked directly to the loading dock doors, all locked from inside. Then to the employee entrance, also locked. He knew the layout. This wasn't random. He stood at the employee entrance for a full minute, just staring at the camera. I could see his face now on the monitor. Mid-30s, clean-shaven, wearing dark work clothes. He looked like he could be an employee, except I knew everyone who worked there. Then he held up something to the camera. A key. He had a key to the building. I barricaded the security office door with the desk, my heart pounding so hard I thought I might pass out. On the monitor, I watched him unlock the door and step inside. The motion sensors triggered, showing his path through the warehouse. He wasn't heading for merchandise or offices. He was walking directly toward the security office. He knew exactly where I was. "Tom?" His voice echoed through the hallway outside. "I just want to talk. About the schedule. About when you work alone." Police sirens finally pierced the silence. On the monitor, I saw him stop, tilt his head, then turn and walk calmly back the way he came. By the time officers arrived 4 minutes later, he was gone. They found his van parked 2 blocks away, abandoned. Inside were detailed notes about the warehouse, employee schedules, and security protocols, and photos. Dozens of photos of me arriving for work, leaving, walking the perimeter. Some dated back 2 months. They never caught him. I quit that night, didn't even finish my shift. The company changed all the locks, fixed the fence, hired armed security. My supervisor called me a week later. Said they found something else during the investigation. In the warehouse basement, in a storage room nobody used anymore, they found bedding, food wrappers, and a chemical toilet. Someone had been living there. The dust patterns suggested for at least 3 weeks. 3 weeks. While I walked those halls alone every night, someone was there, listening, waiting. I work days now, retail, lots of people around. But sometimes, when a customer says my name after reading my name tag, just that split second before my brain processes it's normal, I'm back in that moment, hearing my name in the darkness. This was in the summer of 2022, just over a year ago. I had recently graduated college and moved into my first apartment alone, a 1-bedroom unit on the 2nd floor of an older complex in Oregon. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine, and after 4 years of roommates, I treasured the privacy. The incident started on a Tuesday. I worked from home as a graphic designer, so I was there all day. Around 2 p.m., I heard a knock. When I looked through the peephole, no one was there. I figured it was a package delivery and didn't think much of it. Wednesday, same thing. Knock around 2 p.m., no one there. This time I opened the door immediately. The hallway was empty. But there was something on my doormat. A folded piece of paper. Inside, written in neat handwriting, "You look tired. You should sleep more." My skin crawled. I hadn't been sleeping well. But how would anyone know that? I tried to rationalize it. Maybe I looked tired when I grabbed my mail that morning. Maybe it was meant for another apartment. But deep down, I knew neither explanation fit. Thursday came. I was ready, standing by the door at 1:55 p.m. At exactly 2 p.m., the knock came. I yanked the door open. An older woman stood there, maybe 60, wearing a floral dress. She smiled warmly. "Oh, hello dear. I'm Martha from 3B. I wanted to introduce myself." I relaxed slightly, but stayed cautious. "You've been knocking the past 2 days?" Her smile faltered. "No, dear. I just got back from visiting my daughter in Portland an hour ago." After she left, I found another note, tucked under my doormat this time. "Martha seems nice, but she can't help you." I called the building manager. He reviewed the hallway security footage, which only covered the elevator and stairwell areas, not individual doors. Each day at 2 p.m., the cameras showed nothing unusual. Whoever was doing this knew the blind spots. That night, I wedged a chair under my doorknob and barely slept. Around 3 a.m., I heard something that made my blood freeze, the sound of a key in my lock. The deadbolt turned, then the regular lock. The door pushed against the chair, once, twice, then stopped. Footsteps retreated down the hall. I called 911, hands shaking so bad I could barely hold the phone. The police found no signs of forced entry, and the locks showed no damage. They took a report, suggested I change my locks, and left. The building manager agreed to change them first thing in the morning, Friday at 2 p.m. I was in my bedroom, door locked, baseball bat in hand, watching my front door through my laptop's security camera I'd set up. The knock came. On my screen, I saw my door open. Someone had a key, a new key, to my new locks. A man entered. Average height, average build, wearing maintenance coveralls and a baseball cap pulled low. He moved with purpose, not like a thief, more like someone who belonged there. He walked to my kitchen, opened my refrigerator, and took out the orange juice. Poured a glass, drank it, rinsed the glass and put it back. Then he walked to my bedroom door and knocked. I know you're in there, and I know you're watching through that camera. Smart. But you should know, I work here. I have access to everything, every lock, every apartment, every schedule. My mouth went dry. Building maintenance. He had master keys. I've been watching you for months, he continued. When you moved in, I thought you were perfect. Living alone, working from home, we could have been perfect together. But you're making this difficult. I texted 911, too afraid to speak and let him know exactly where I was in the room. I'm going to leave now, he said. But think about this. I can come in any time. When you're sleeping. When you're in the shower. When you're at the store. Do you really want to live like that? Or we could just talk. Get to know each other. I'll wait for your answer. He left. The police arrived 8 minutes later. I gave them the footage. Clear face shot when he drank the juice. They arrested him that night, the maintenance supervisor for the building for 6 years. In his apartment, they found copies of keys to 12 units, all occupied by single women. They found notebooks with detailed schedules, habits, personal information. Mine had 4 months of entries. When I signed my lease, when I moved in, my daily routines, even notes about my phone calls he could hear through the vents. But here's what still haunts me. He'd been inside my apartment before. Many times. They found videos on his computer. Me sleeping. Me cooking dinner. Me working at my desk. Date stamps going back 2 months. In one video, he stood next to my bed for 20 minutes, just watching. I never knew. He pled guilty to multiple charges, got 8 years. But I couldn't stay there. Couldn't sleep. Every sound was him. Every shadow was him. Even now in my new place with new locks and security systems, I wake up at 3 a.m. sometimes, certain I heard something. The other women in the building, we stay in touch. We're all in therapy. We all moved. But Lisa from 2A told me something that made it worse. She'd complained about missing food, moved items, the feeling of being watched. Management told her she was imagining things. That was a year before I moved in. A year. He'd been doing this for at least a year, and the building knew something was wrong. They just didn't want to deal with it. This happened on Halloween night of 2020 during the pandemic. I was 19, home from college because classes were online. My parents had gone to a small gathering at our neighbor's house, leaving me to handle trick-or-treaters. Not that we expected many with everything going on. We lived in a quiet suburb outside Denver, the kind where kids still rode bikes in the street, and everyone knew each other. I'd grown up there, knew every house, every family, which is why the man on our porch immediately stood out. It was around 8:30 p.m. Most of the younger kids had finished their rounds. I was in the living room watching Netflix when the doorbell rang. Through the window, I could see a single figure. Adult height, no costume, just regular clothes. I opened the door with the candy bowl, expecting a parent grabbing sweets for a sick kid or something. The man stood at the bottom of our porch steps, not on the porch itself, which was odd. He was probably mid-40s, wearing jeans and a windbreaker. Normal looking except for his smile. Too wide, held too long. Trick or treat, he said, though he had no bag. Sure. I held out the bowl, figuring he was just being weird for Halloween. He didn't move. No, you misunderstand. You choose. Trick or treat. The smile never wavered. Something in my gut clenched. Treat, I said quickly, wanting this interaction over. Good choice. He reached into his jacket pocket, and I tensed, ready to slam the door. But he pulled out a fun-sized Snickers and tossed it into my bowl. Enjoy your evening. He walked away, down our driveway, and disappeared into the darkness between streetlights. Not toward any house, just gone. I locked the door, deeply unsettled. Texted my parents about it, but they were having fun and told me not to worry. Probably just someone being silly for Halloween. 20 minutes later, the doorbell rang again. Same man, same position at the bottom of the steps, same smile. We already did this, I said through the barely open door. No, that was house to house. This is different. Trick or treat. I started to close the door. He spoke quickly. You really should answer. Treat means I leave. Trick means, well, let's hope you say treat. My hand hovered on the door. I was thinking if I should call the cops, but over what? A weird guy giving out candy. But every alarm in my head was screaming. Treat, I said. Another Snickers into my bowl. Smart, very smart. One more time tonight. Be ready. This time I watched where he went. He walked to the Hendersons' house next door, stood in their driveway for exactly 1 minute, then moved to the next house. Not knocking, not approaching, just standing, watching. I called my parents. They came home immediately, arriving just as a police car pulled up. Mrs. Henderson had called about the strange man. The officer took descriptions, did a patrol, found nothing, said to call if he came back. 10:47 p.m., parents in bed, assuming it was over. I was in my room, lights off, watching through my window. I saw him before he rang the bell. He came through our backyard this time, walked around the side of the house to the front door. The doorbell rang. My parents didn't wake up. They were heavy sleepers. I crept downstairs, looked through the peephole. He was on the porch this time, right at the door. I know you're there, he said conversationally. Last time, trick or treat. I said nothing. Not answering is the same as saying trick. His voice sing-songed the last word. Treat, I whispered. I can't hear you. Treat, I said louder. Good. Something hit the door. Another piece of candy, probably. You've been very good. Others haven't. You'll hear about it tomorrow. I watched him leave through the backyard again, scaling our fence like it was nothing. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, the neighborhood Facebook group exploded. 3 houses had been broken into overnight. Small items taken. Jewelry, electronics, cash. But that wasn't the weird part. In each house, the intruder had done something else. One house found every family photo turned face down. Another discovered their daughter's stuffed animals arranged on the kitchen table like they were having tea. Another found trick written on their bathroom mirror in toothpaste. All 3 families had one thing in common. They'd been out for Halloween, houses dark, no candy. They hadn't been home to play his game. The police increased patrols, but he was never caught. No one saw him except me and Mrs. Henderson. The security footage from the one house that had cameras only showed a blurry image. His face wasn't visible. I found one more thing, though. A week later, when I was raking leaves, I found a small pile of opened Snickers wrappers under my bedroom window. At least a dozen. He'd stood there, outside my window, eating candy, watching. We moved 8 months later. My parents said it was for Dad's job, but I knew better. Mom had stopped sleeping well. Dad installed so many locks, the front door looked ridiculous. Every Halloween now, wherever I am, I leave my lights on. All of them.